Hey guys, welcome back. The last time I had to remove the door off the car because of some issues of rust. Yeah, I know, more rust that I had to address. And well, let's take a look at what I found because it's a little worse than I originally thought, but not too bad. But let's take a look at it and then we'll take a look at what I'm going to do to fix it and get this door back on the car. Alright guys, here's the door off the car. You can see the bottom edge now has been sandblasted. You can see here, just along this bottom edge, this has all been sandblasted metal to remove what I thought was just surface rust. But it turns out it's a little more in some spots than surface rust. So you can see right here is one of the areas. I've already cut out the rusted metal here, but you can see over here where there is some metal starting to rot and go away, as well as right here is another little spot. Not too bad, but I was hoping it wasn't to that level. I was hoping it was more like where it is over here, where it is was just on the surface and sandblasting took it away, and now it just needs to get prepped and painted over there. But here I need to address. I need to take care of this. So what I'm going to do is, like I did already over here, is cut out this section here as well as this section here. I didn't cut the whole way down because there are spot welds that hold the outer skin onto the inner structure here, and I didn't want to have to remove those. You can see one here. A couple reasons. There's no rust in those spots. It's not rotted there yet. And two, I didn't want to have to deal with the skin coming off and coming loose and having to try to weld everything back together again. So I wanted to try to keep it a little bit more simple and just do the areas of concern and issue, and then take care of the rest. Now, there's a couple other ways I could have gone about fixing this. I could have just put some POR 15 on here, which is a rust preventative paint, or some other rust encapsulating paint that I could have used on here to just encapsulate the rust. That would basically does is starves it of moisture and oxygen, two things that cause rust. But it'd still be there, and I have the door off, and I've gone this far in other areas of the car. I might as well go this far here and just cut it out and re-weld in some patches. So what I'm going to do then is just make a small little patch, weld in place here, and hopefully it won't look like it's been repaired. It'll just look, the seam will just follow along just like it has all the way here. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what I'm going to work on today. Alright, so there we go. I cut out all the old metal. Got that all the rusted metal is gone. In here, like I said, I just kept the spot welds, and it's not really actually rusted behind the spot welds. Yeah, so now I just have we have the edge still here to weld to, and you can see some of the inner structure metal is gone now since that rotted. So actually the metal you see in there is, you can see that's the inner skin, the outer skin I should say. So this will surface here where this attaches to it, so there's some of that gone too. So eventually that would have rusted through, and then you would have a rust hole on the other side. So we've stopped that from happening, and like I said, I'll fill this in with some new metal, put some new metal in here and here and here. But by leaving this edge here, I'm saving myself a lot of work, and it'll keep the door looking better. And actually, I think I'm going to cut this one center one area here. Looks like there's still some rust. I got to cut that one out. So I'm going to cut this one out. This one's actually good, and this one's good here. So let's get cutting that one out next and see what we got after that. That's going to be a little harder because I'm going to have to actually either drill out the spot weld or grind down the metal, and we'll just see what works better for that. So I'll get on that right now. Pretty happy though with the way this is. I mean, it's more work than I wanted to do to the door, but you know, sometimes you got to do extra work. So now I'll just take this piece I cut here though, actually, and you can tell it's just rusted. It's like paper thin, but I'll take this and I'll use this as almost as a template. Just make it longer to fit in here, but you know, it's got the angle on the end that matches up to here, so I'll just use that. And cut some new steel, and then we'll weld in the new steel, and go from there. See, once that's done, we'll grind it all down. So joy of working on an old car. It's got rust, you know. It's what happens. So before I weld in the patch panels, I want to do a little more cleaning up of the surface and just make sure I don't have any more rust left before I weld the panel in and seal all that rust in there. So I'm going to, it's a little raining outside, so I can't take the door outside and sandblast. It'll make a mess. Plus water doesn't really work well with the sand, and doesn't really help the fact that the water will make it rust in the middle of sandblasting, so can't do that. So I'm going to use a wire wheel and some other techniques to just make sure the surface is all cleaned up and rust free. Then I'll put some weld through primer on there, and that should take care of everything I need to do before I weld the patch panel in, and then I can weld the patch panel in, then do the finished body work and put the door back on the car. So first step, cleaning up the rust. Let's go tackle that next. So I have a couple options. I have this wire wheel that I can attach to my drill, and then I also have this fiber wheel. I'm not sure which one is going to work best for this. I'll try both of them. We'll see which one does a better job, and then I'll let you know which one I like better for, at least for this area. These, you know, they work better in different situations, so I have multiple different types of, you know, sanding discs and grinding discs. And then so I'll just use my drill, and I'll get to work on that, and we'll see which one does a better job cleaning it up. And then after that's done, I have some rust converter that will just spray down after that, and that should take care of any remaining residual rust that might be left down on the surface here. As you can see there, you can still see some in here where I didn't, you know, I was grinding away, they just couldn't get at, and so just do a better job, and we'll get that tackled now. So because of the angle, just the positioning of the area that I had to sand, the wire wheel did a much better. It was much easier to get to do, and the fiber wheel was fine. Actually did nice to get into the corner, to that little corner niche that, you know, the between the, you know, where the rounded corner. But overall, the wire wheel did actually do a better job for this you know, this spot. So that's all cleaned up as best I can do. I'm gonna treat it now with the chemical, and that should just get any remaining residue, any remaining rust, I should say, taken care of. And then I can, once that dries, Then I can hit it with a Weld-2 primer, and then we can go on to making the patch pieces and welding those patch pieces in. So off to the next step. Okay, so here's my rust converter product, and the instructions on this say to apply several thin coats to the surface and then let dry for 24 hours. So I'm going to apply this on here, put this on. It's simple, it's just a liquid. You just brush it on and then let it sit. So I won't be welding it on today, I'll be welding it on tomorrow. So I'll just put the coating on here and we'll let this sit, and then we'll come back tomorrow and see where we're at. Okay, so while I wait for the chemicals on the door to dry, I am going to go ahead and make my patch panels. So everything is all ready to go when that's dried and cleaned up and ready for welding. So got my metal piece of metal here that I'm going to cut the patches out of. I'm just going to take some measurements and then make my cuts. Alright, so let's take a look what we're going to do. Here's the panel. What I'm going to do is measure out. I measured the gap on the door where I cut, and it's about 3/8. So I'm going to take some measurements. I'll measure out 3/8. I'm just going to cut a strip down the whole length here. That way I can just cut pieces as I need them to fit, and I don't have to keep coming back to it to cut this strip up. And so what I'll do is I'll take some measurements, draw a straight line, cut that strip out, and then we'll have our material for making the patches. Okay, so I got my strip all cut. So this is what I'll use, then I'll just cut this in sections for what I need. So let's go take a look and see how this fits over here on the door. So let's see here, we got, so that fits pretty good. I mean, it matches up. Yeah, you can see, obviously I gotta cut it to fit the angles here and here, but widthwise it'll look good, it'll fit in nice, and we'll get that welded back in. Now you may be wondering, why go through all the trouble of doing this? Why not just, you know, leave, you know, put some rust encapsulator coating on it and call it a day? Well, you know, it's not a huge visible piece section, but it is visible. You open up the door, someone's scrutinizing the car, someone's looking close at it, they'll notice it. And so it's why I wanted to cut out the rust. And, you know, I need to weld in these strips now back in to give it strength again, because now this is the outer skin and this is the inner structure. There's nothing really holding these two pieces together in these sections. Now over here it's crimped together and that crimping actually creates some strength. So here I've cut away that strength and that material, so now I need to replace that to give it the strength back, so this doesn't, you know, flex or, you know, this pull away from the inner structure for, you know, under stress and load. So that's why I'm going through this trouble. I want it to be structurally sound again, and also look at least as close as I can get it to looking how it would have looked, in where someone who looks at it would never know that there was a repair made here. And that's my goal, is to make it look like it wasn't repaired in its you know, in its original state, how it would have left the factory. So that's why I'm going through the extra steps and extra trouble to get it to look this way. So I got the patch made. You well, patch material made. I just have to cut the patches out of that strip, but we got that made. So now it's just the waiting game to wait for this to be ready so I can weld that on. But because of the magic of video, it won't be that much time for you as it will be for me. So hey, shortly you'll see me doing the next step. So stay tuned. Okay, so all cleaned off, vacuumed everything off, wiped the whole door down with wax and grease remover, and then went over just the area. I scuffed the area, this whole area here, in case any overspray hits it. I'm only going to hit the area that I'm working on, but I scuffed everything with a scuff pad to make sure there's no, in case any paint does get on here, it sticks and doesn't come off. There's good bonding and adhesion. I also then went over it with some naphtha and wiped the whole surface down. So now this is all clean, ready to get some paint. So let's get some weld-through primer on here, and then we can make the patch and start welding. So exciting, good stuff. Okay, so as with this that I painted, I also painted the back side of the material that I'm using for my patch, so that's treated, and when that's welded in place, it shouldn't rust because it's got protective weld-through paint on there. So what I'm going to do now is just start cutting metal to fit, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use my tin snips since I'm just cutting it's not a whole lot of material. Hopefully this will cut nice. Yeah, see, there we go. That cuts nicely with those. And a little bit more of an angle on that. So this is a little bit of trial and error. You just got to keep trimming it until you get the right angle that you need. And that's a nice angle. So there we go. I got this piece cut for that end, and then I just got to cut together. What I'll do is, before I cut that, I'm actually just going to tack this in place. And that'll hold that in place, and then I can just trim this to fit. These little magnets I have here that'll hold this down. These are some really strong magnets for welding. I picked these up at welding supply shop, and these are for. And they do a really good job of it. So that's in place. I'm going to put some tacks in here, and that should fix that. And then, yes, it's looking nice. It's going to be good. Alright, well, it's all welded up. Panel's finished. And going to hit it with some paint. And then I can flip that over and do the rest of the body work on the other side and be done with this door. Alright, well, I'm happy. The door is finally repaired. No more rust on the door. Now it's ready for final body work on the other side. Then I can paint the door and get it back on the car. So don't forget to hit the like, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe and follow along with this project. Talk to you soon.